For basically all of human history, a severed spinal cord meant one thing: an end to movement. It was a biological circuit that, once it was broken forever. But that's all changing. We're in a completely new era now, an era where tiny microchips are being implanted in human brains to literally bypass an injury, to build a digital bridge over that broken connection. So today, we're going to do a deep dive into the incredible science that's making the impossible, well, possible, and the one really shocking biological barrier that's standing in the way. I have my life back. Just let that sink in for a second. Those are the words of Julie, a participant in a clinical study for one of these new implants. After her spinal cord injury, she suffered from this chronic dizziness and fatigue that made it impossible to do even basic daily tasks. Now, she says she can go back to school, finish her PhD. And that, right there, is the promise at the heart of this whole story. It's not just about restoring movement, it's about restoring a life. Okay, so let's get into our first part, the impossible step. We're going to look at the fundamental problem of paralysis and the absolutely revolutionary tech that is letting people stand, walk, and move again, sometimes for the first time in a decade. So before we get to the solution, you got to understand the problem itself. Paralysis usually isn't about the muscles failing. A lot of the time, the muscles are perfectly fine. The real issue is a communication breakdown. The brain, specifically the motor cortex, is still firing off the commands: lift your leg, take a step. But a spinal cord injury, it's like a downed telephone line. The signal gets sent, but it never reaches its destination. That circuit is physically broken.
So, if you can't fix the biological wire, what do? Well, you build a new one. And that's the core idea behind the brain-spine interface, or BSI. Scientists have created what they call a digital bridge. It's basically got two main parts. First, an implanted system that reads the brain's electrical signals, the intention to move. And second, another implanted system, a stimulator, that sits on the spinal cord below the injury. The bridge wirelessly connects those two, completely bypassing the damaged spot. The brain thinks, and the spine acts. It's that simple, and that revolutionary.
And this just shows you how powerful this approach is. In the STIMO BSI clinical trial, they enrolled a 38-year-old man who'd been paralyzed for a decade after a biking accident. With this digital bridge, he was able to stand, to walk, to climb stairs, and get around complex terrain, all controlled just by his thoughts. But here's the part that'll blow your mind. Even with the device turned off, he started to regain the ability to walk with crutches. This shows that the digital bridge isn't just a temporary bypass. It seems to be actively teaching the spinal cord to heal itself, encouraging these dormant neural pathways to spark back to life. It's not just helping him walk, it's helping his body relearn how to walk all on its own.
So how is this incredible bridge actually built? I mean, this isn't just happening in one lab or with one company. What we're seeing is a full-on technological race, a high-stakes competition between brilliant minds and some very well-funded startups, all trying to perfect this digital bridge. So how does it actually work, and who are the big players?
Okay, so the process, while it's incredibly complex under the hood, can really be broken down into 4 key steps. First, the user just thinks about a movement. Simple as that. This creates a unique pattern of electrical activity in their brain. Second, tiny implanted electrodes record those specific neural signals. Third, a computer, using some seriously sophisticated algorithms, decodes those signals in real time. It translates the thought into a precise digital command. And finally, that command gets sent wirelessly to a stimulator, which delivers these targeted electrical pulses to the spinal cord or the muscles, triggering the movement you wanted. Think, record, decode, stimulate. That's the loop that's bringing motion back.
Now, what's really fascinating here is you can see the different philosophies at play. You've got 3 main titans in this space right now. First, Neuralink, founded by Elon Musk. Their N1 chip is implanted with a craniotomy. Yep, open brain surgery by a special robot. Their goal is the highest possible signal quality, with over 1,000 electrodes placed right into the brain tissue. Then you've got Synchron. Their approach is completely different. Their device, the stentrode, is delivered through the jugular vein, kind of like a heart stent, and it sits in a blood vessel on top of the brain. No open brain surgery. And finally, there's Onward, which is focused on an epidural implant on the spinal cord itself. Each one has its own risks and rewards. It's a classic trade-off. Do you go for the absolute best signal, even if it means super invasive surgery? Or is a safer, less invasive approach the smarter way to go, even if the signal isn't quite as clear? That's the debate that's driving this entire industry.
So the technology is here. We know it works. But this brings us to the central conflict of our story, the most shocking, counterintuitive challenge in this whole field. The biggest obstacle to making a permanent, reliable digital bridge isn't the chip or the software or the surgery. Nope,
It's the human body itself. And that's a fair question, right? We've seen people walk, we've seen them communicate, the proof is there. So what's stopping these devices from becoming as common as, say, a pacemaker? Well, the problem is that the brain fights back. It sees these incredible life-changing devices as an enemy. And the weapon the brain uses is called the glial scar. When any foreign object, even these incredibly advanced biocompatible implants, is put into the brain, it kicks off an immune response. Specialized brain cells, microglia, and astrocytes swarm the implant. They multiply, they change shape, and over weeks and months, they form this dense, thick layer of scar tissue that completely wraps around the device. It's the brain's way of building a wall to protect itself from what it thinks is an invader. And this slide just shows you the problem perfectly. The glial scar basically blinds the implant. The electrodes are trying to listen to these faint electrical whispers from neurons. But this biological wall physically pushes the neurons away and insulates the device, blocking the signals. The implant is still there, it's still on, but it just can't hear what the brain is trying to say anymore. The body's own defense mechanism ends up sabotaging the digital bridge.
And the consequences for the tech are, well, they're devastating. The glial scar doesn't just make the signal weaker, it can lead to total signal loss. The data becomes inaccurate or just disappears. And even worse, this constant inflammation can actually kill the very neurons the implant is supposed to be listening to. So the key takeaway here is that the scarring dramatically limits how long the device can work reliably, and ultimately it causes it to fail. This is the #1 problem that every single company in this race has to solve.
And that brings us to the real front line of brain-computer interface research today. The race isn't just about building a better chip anymore, it's a race against biological rejection. The huge question now is, can we design an implant that the brain will finally accept as one of its own? And this is where those different surgical approaches we talked about become so critical. Neuralink is betting everything on high-resolution data. By putting their super-thin, flexible threads right into the brain tissue, they get the clearest possible signal. Their big challenge is making those threads so tiny and flexible that they trick the immune system. Synchron, on the other hand, is betting that the best way to beat the glial scar is to just avoid poking the brain at all. Their stent rode sits inside a blood vessel, listening from a bit of a distance. The payoff is a much smaller immune response, but the trade-off is a weaker signal. It's the fundamental conflict, signal quality versus longevity. And you better believe the competition is real. This quote from Synchron's COO, Kurt Hagstrom, just cuts right to the heart of it all. We think Neuralink is over-engineering. What he's really saying is you don't need to read thousands of individual neurons with surgical precision to let someone control a computer or talk. Synchron believes a less invasive, more stable, good enough signal is the smarter, faster path to helping people. It's a clash of engineering titans with totally different strategies for trying to outsmart our own biology. So, while that race against rejection is happening, the applications for the tech we already have are expanding at a crazy rate. And this brings us to the final act of our story, where the ambition goes way beyond just movement. We are now talking about restoring the whole spectrum of human experience, communication, sensation, and even the invisible functions that keep us healthy.
And the results we're seeing are just staggering. This isn't science fiction anymore. A paralyzed man with ALS used a speech BCI from his own home to communicate over 237,000 sentences. Just think about that. In the BrainGate trials, a participant could type at 22 words per minute just by thinking about moving her fingers. And it goes beyond just output. By stimulating the sensory cortex, scientists can now let patients feel with their prosthetic limbs, telling them if something is rough or smooth. And remember Onward, their device is tackling dangerously low blood pressure in spinal cord injury patients, which gets rid of brain fog and gives them way more energy for daily life.
This quote really brings all that high-tech data back down to earth. It's not always about the huge headline achievements like walking. Sometimes it's about the small victories that completely transform a life. Just getting 10% more function back, the ability to control a computer, to send an email, to turn on the lights, that can be the difference between dependence and independence. That little bit allows a person to do so much more, to reclaim a piece of their life that they thought was gone forever. So, where is all this headed? We've seen technology make the impossible possible. But this field isn't just moving forward step by step, it's accelerating like a rocket. I mean, just look at this timeline. It really hammers home the insane pace. In 2018, restoring basic walking with pre-programmed stimulation was a huge deal, a cover story for Nature. Just 6 years later, in 2024, Neuralink puts its first high-bandwidth BCI into a human. By 2026, we're seeing results for high-speed typing from home. What used to be a once-in-a-decade breakthrough is now happening every single year, sometimes every few months. The progress is it's truly staggering. And that brings us to our final thought. For decades, paralysis was a hardware problem, a broken wire that you just couldn't fix. We are now getting incredibly close to a world where it's a software problem, a challenge of better algorithms, more stable connections, more intuitive interfaces. The digital bridge is being built. But that leaves us with a really profound question for the future. If we can successfully merge the human brain with machines to fix what's broken, what happens when we start using that same exact technology to upgrade what isn't? That is the new human frontier.